live on the Metal Voice on a Thursday evening. And great news, everyone. I think everybody's expecting this as Panic Attack from Judas Priest is, it's out there and people are super excited. So we thought we'd just, give it a quick review because we were just so excited. We couldn't contain ourselves. And you know what, Baron Wolfson? We're going to
Yeah.
talk about Panic Attack, Panic Attack, Panic Attack.
Panic attack, panic attack. Thursday night after work.
Yeah.
And here we are. We usually don't get us at a Thursday night Eastern time.
Mm-mm.
I'm not even wearing a metal shirt. I didn't even dress for the occasion.
I always wear my Anvil shirt. There you go. All right. So this is what I'm going to do. What I've done with the song is I've kind of just broke it down into pieces. And you could comment as we talk about those pieces. All right.
Sure. How many times have you listened to it?
I've listened to it a few times.
I've listened to it twice.
Enough to break it down into pieces.
All right.
Okay. So here we go. We all know the beginning, right? The beginning starts off with this cool techno keyboard sound, right? To me, I was thinking about, and ask you what you were thinking about when you heard this keyboard techno sound. I was thinking about Billy Idol Rebel Yell, just like at the beginning of it, how that keyboard starts. What comes to your mind when you hear this?
Yeah. Well, first, we heard that snippet last weekend because that's what they released as a tease.
Yeah.
But we weren't sure what it was. So now we know it is the intro to the first single. I didn't quite go to Billy Idol 80s pop. I think I and a lot of people instantly went to Turbo. And I know a lot of people were asking themselves, is this album going to be like Turbo?
Well, I would pause there. I know what you're saying about Turbo. It's got the keyboard element, right?
Yeah.
But it doesn't
more than keyboards. It gets synth.
To me, this sounds more like a techno keyboard than actually a sort of like just playing some chords, But I get what you're saying. It's a Turbo throwback.
Well, and it's also I thought it was very Dream Theater-ish. Like it's kind of like ambient, right? Like kind of like a little bit of what Derek Sherinian used to play, Kevin Moore, Jordan Rudess.
But ambient would be more of a Turbo. That would be more ambient.
Right? Yeah, well, that's why it did remind me of Turbo. But I mean, honestly, more than Turbo and more than 80s techno, I mean, it does sound progressive. It sounds Dream Theater-ish. There's no way around it. I mean, if you listen to Derek Sherinian as an example, who was in Dream Theater, his last couple of solo albums, it kind of sounds like that kind of music. Look, I like that intro. Honestly, I think it's a great intro.
Metal Maniac 1911 says the word you're looking for is synth wave. You have nailed it, my friend. Synth wave is exactly what we're looking at. And it does have this like rave kind of techno feel to it, right? But it's still metal, but I'm just saying that's sort of like the intro to the song. And what a beautiful intro it is.
Yeah, it definitely sets the mood, right? I mean, sometimes the intros kind of makes you turn off the song, and this is an intro, it's a hook, right? This is bringing you in. This is like, it's definitely a what's going to happen next kind of intro.
Okay, so I like this. Michael saying the introduction reminds me of the beginning of Nostradamus. I think, Michael, that's a very clever way because Nostradamus has the intro and it builds up. It builds the song up. So Michael, you are right about that.
That's the mood.
Yeah. All right. So we're starting off. Okay. And the production in general is a very bright production, I would say. This, to me, didn't sound like Sneap. It did not sound like Sneap. Sneap sounds more compressed, digitally compressed. This sounds more bright, more ambient, maybe.
But it is produced. It is definitely, look, one note I took is that it's a very produced track. Like, this isn't, sometimes bands will be like, yeah, we recorded it live off the floor and that's what we put on the album. This isn't that. This is like a lot of takes put together in its best possible form. And that's not bad and it's not good, but it's it's polished. It sounds the way it sounds very deliberately.
Ambient, not ambient.
Wow. Tomato, depends where you're from.
Look, you know what? You know why I say Billy Idol? Because this is the cool thing about Billy Idol.
Derek Sherinian was in Billy Idol, actually, too. Seeing that I mentioned it before.
Moni. The thing about when I think of Rebel Yell, it's got a kick, like a big kick of a song, right? It's got I wouldn't say a punch in your face, but it's got a kick. But it has this big 80s reverb sound. That's what I'm hearing here in this song. It's this big, bright, fat 80s sound
I don't know.
that
You
I kind
lost
of
me a
like
bit with
about
the
it.
Moni Moni. I'm still saying I'll get more specific. I'll say Dream Theater Falling into Infinity keyboard sound. So I
All right,
mean,
I'll say Billy Idol.
go listen to Falling to Infinity and tell me what you think, you know?
All right. So then it has a verse, right? Of course, it kind of builds up from the keyboard
Wait,
and it goes into the
there's something
verse.
before the verse. There's something before the verse that I
Oh, it's a
think is
little
very important.
transition. Go ahead.
So coming out of the keyboard intro, because you still don't know what you're gonna get. Am I getting
Yes.
turbo or am I getting something else? Defenders of the Faith or Painkiller?
Yeah.
There's a pretty cool riff, really good riff coming right out of the keyboard synth piece. And
Yes.
and it's not a riff that permeates through the whole song. It's a riff that kicks the song off. And I thought that was really, really well done. The way they went from the synth intro into what I think is a really, really attractive, meaty, really, really.
And that's where I see the Nostradamus connection, because you got that keyboard sort of transitioning to the song, that mid part, that transition point. Very excited. And Jim Harrison says, a wicked riff, exciting, and I agree. Then you get into the verse, right? And Halford is singing half of the verse and just as a single vocal, but also the second part of the verse, it's more of like a harmonies, like he's doing that screaming part, the head voice stuff with his sort of chest voice. A very nice, punchy, upbeat verse. What'd you think?
I also think that Rob isn't over singing, and I think it's important given his age and where his voice is. I mean, I realize it's not live, it's a produced track, but at the end of the day, I like that he's singing in his low to mid range and he's not going super high. And maybe he's saving that for later and we'll see, sort of thing. But I kind of just like the range that he's singing in. I really like where he's singing. So, great first minute, and the verse really kind of it engages you. It definitely engages you.
That's correct. Then we got the chorus: panic attack, panic attack, panic attack. Right? They're repeating it. I think it sounds like sort of like a Mission Impossible kind of soundtrack, a song to Mission Impossible. It's just, and you know what? Okay, it's got that Scorpions repeat the chorus, repeat the repeat the song title over and over and over again.
I'm a savior, don't you think? It's like, yeah, but you know what? Look, you're not going to forget the name of the song. You're not going to forget the name of the song. You're definitely, what is this again? It's pretty clearly Panic Attack.
Yeah. Yeah. Silverstone is saying the song is professionally written and has progressive elements that doesn't make it straightforward boring. Best I heard since a long time. I would agree with you. I'm very excited about the song. I do like the panic attack because that's what it is. It's a panic attack. And you feel like your heart's beating faster.
Right? The song gets a bit when you get to the chorus, it's a bit frantic, right? The song.
Yes, that's a good word.
So I think the lyric reflects what's going on in the song.
Yeah. Then of course, you go back to the verse, what we just talked about. You go back to the chorus again, panic attack, panic attack. And then it goes to a bridge, right? It goes just a little off tangent. But the cool thing is, it doesn't only go through one bridge, it goes to a second bridge where you're going to yourself, holy mackerel, is this King Diamond them?
But, again, staying in the Priest ballpark, I wrote Painkiller. I'm like, okay, wait a minute. Between, I feel like, okay, I've gone in the same song from hearing, hey, are they trying to do a bit of what they did in Turbo to, wait a minute, are they kind of doing what they did in Painkiller here? So kind of, wow. They say you can't be all things to all people, but so far, to where we are in this review of the track, they kind of are being all things to all Priest fans and doing it pretty well, I have to say,
Yep. But I will point this out one more time. There is the second bridge, like there's a first bridge and the second bridge. I'm kind of going, this really could have come off of a King Diamond album. Sort of that screamy falsetto highs, as well as the way sort of the progressions of the bridge. When we said progressive song, this is where it gets progressive. If you pay really close attention, the progression of the song, and it just seamlessly goes from the verse to the chorus to the bridge to the second bridge, and then hang on, we got Iron Maiden guitar harmonies happening. So it goes out of the bridge into Iron Maiden guitar galloping and harmonies. Would you agree?
I would, and look, say what you want about Richie, but I'm listening to that, and I'm hearing classic KK and Glenn. I'm hearing classic Dave Murray, Adrian Smith. Look, those two bands have always been known for those dueling leads, those harmonies, those guitar harmonies, and it's here. Like it's ticking that box. It's if you're a Priest fan from just about any era, or if you're a fan of what Maiden was doing as well, you're getting it here. It's ticking that box.
Yeah. Here's where you just mentioned. Now you're getting into solo 1, solo 2, and
Yeah,
solo 3. Now you're getting into Electric Eye guitar solo
yeah.
territory.
Or Painkiller again. If you weren't thinking heavier Judas Priest, Electric Eye, Painkiller, heavier moments on Defenders of the Faith before, you're definitely thinking about them now.
I just adore these guitar solos. They're sort of like lightning. Think of Electric Eye, right? Just that sort of speed and that tone, that rushed panic tone. It now that the panic attack vocals are matching sort of the guitar solo in the same sense. It's frantic, it's a panic, and man, oh man, Richie and Glenn and Andy Sneap, whoever is doing these solos, really capture the spirit of the Judas Priest soloing right there.
Yeah, I mean, I would think a lot of it is Richie, and who knows what they did in the studio. We could be doing both of them and layered one on top of the other for all we know. But yeah, I mean, I definitely look. Richie has like made his place in the band. He's really put his stamp on what he does in Judas Priest. So, no one's here to comment on the way things went down. All we can really judge is what they are. And Richie has really carved out a place for him in this modern version of Judas Priest. There's no doubt about it, and his fingerprints are all over this song.
I mean, if I was transported back into the 80s, I would say this is a KK Tipton sort of trade-offs back and forth, right?
Absolutely.
I mean, it could have definitely, but more this seems it's just more fresh. There's something about the song that it has a fresh element to it, where the last album didn't. Okay, we're getting out of solo 1.
Okay,
we're getting out of solo 2. We're getting out of solo 1, solo 2, and solo 3. I think there's about 3 solos. And then you think it'd go back to the vocals, but no, now it's galloping again. Yeah. You got the gallop, and now you got the twin guitar harmonies, or maybe even 3 guitar harmonies, but it's going for at least a minute.
Yeah. It's not a short look, it's about a 5.5-minute song, right? So they're definitely taking you on a bit of a kind of a journey on this song here. It's not just 3 minutes, wham bam, thank you, man, and we're done. Like you're going on a bit of a trip here,
Yeah. I mean, and you know what I like about this song? It's about time it shifted gears a little bit, and there's a sense of originality in there. Like, what, Priest hasn't actually gone there before, maybe because they're mixing so many of their past legacy elements and they're creating something new from that. But to me, it sounds like, it does sound like Painkiller, but it's not. It sounds like Turbo, but it's not.
And Jim, it sounds like Firepower, but it's not. I do still hear a bit of what they've been doing. Like, one of the notes I took was kind of like if Turbo, Painkiller, and Firepower had a threesome, this is what would come out of it, And I do. And look, we're talking about albums I like for different reasons, right? I like, given where we were in 1990, 1991, I really like what Painkiller did. Given what the climate was in 1986, I like what Turbo did. And I thought Firepower was one of the better albums from a classic heavy metal band that we had heard in a long time. So look, I couldn't see how a Judas Priest fan of any era could hear this song unless you only liked kind of Rock-a-Rolla, Sad Wings, Sin After Sin, Stained Class, and you got off the bus there, So maybe I don't know if I can say I can really make a line between this and the early Judas Priest, but from the late 70s, early 80s Priest to the synthy Priest of Turbo and Ram It Down to Painkiller and what they've been doing since the reunion, this should please pretty much most Priest fans. And
Agreed.
I won't compare it to anything else, but I talked a lot about variety on the last show that we did. Well, there's variety and diversity just in one song here, let alone the album.
But we're not finished. We're not finished the song. We're not finished the song. There's more to the song than this. Somebody said, Apollo said, where's King Diamond? No, King Diamond's not on the song. It has a King Diamond vibe
Like,
on the second bridge. He's kind of, you think, wait, the music kind of sounds like King Diamond them, and those shrieking high falsetto vocals that King Diamond does. That's what I'm saying. I'm not saying King Diamond's on the song. I'm just saying it has a vibe. All right, we're coming out of the galloping guitar harmonies. We go back to the verse, as we know. We go into the chorus, and then Halford rips out, that sort of like that the finale scream,
yeah, the money shot.
the
Yeah, the money
money
shot.
note, the money note. However, if you really pay attention, it's not your typical scream where it all ends and that's it. It's kind of like he's picking this note where it sort of continues, because the song does continue. He's going for that money note at the end. However, it still continues to gallop the guitars, and there's another solo, which would probably be the fourth solo. Care to comment?
Yeah, he looked so okay. I'm only 2 listens in now, so you're kind of picking up on a lot more than I did. But
Panic attack, panic attack.
usually in a 5.5 minute song, once we've gotten through a couple of verses and a chorus a couple times and the soloing and the bridge, I'm kind of wishing the song was 4 minutes and not 5.5 minutes. But I don't like, I didn't see the 5.5 minutes go by in listening to this thing. Like, I couldn't believe it was over. So yeah, like as they come out of the chorus and after the last solo and we're kind of winding things down, this thing still has my attention. I'm almost wondering what's going to happen next. But we kind of just edited. We just book. I guess the end of the song bookended the part that came after the keyboard intro very, very nicely. So there's a certain symmetry to the song that I like also.
Well, I'm just going to end off with this. The scream, that big money note scream at the end, solo, more galloping. It goes back into the chorus, panic attack, and it ends. Beautiful way to end it. It would be so typical to end it off on that big note scream at the end, but they
Yeah.
don't. They
Yeah.
keep it going, which
And there's
makes
no
it even
fade.
more.
It's just a punch at the end, and then you're done.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
look, Jim, I'll say this: a first single is supposed to kind of leave you wanting more, making you say, "Okay, man, I can't wait to hear the second single. I wonder what the album is going to bring." So, if the goal of this was to plant a seed in the fan base and kind of get them excited what was coming next, they did it. I mean, this definitely has our interest, and it's almost a shame that the way the music business is now, the album's not coming out till March of 2024. So we're still we're November, December, January. We're 5 months away from the album release. Now, of course, in about a month we'll probably get another single, and then 6 weeks after that we'll probably get another single, and then I mean by the time the album comes, we might have already heard 4 of the tracks. Maybe there'll be 6, 7, or 8 left, depending on the version of the album. But all I know is we're one single in, and I can't wait to hear what comes next.
I mean,
And
also there's a fear every time, and by the way, I'm not ignoring, I'm just kind of looking at the chat here.
yeah, for sure.
Everybody thinks I'm ignoring them, but I'm not. I'm just paying attention. There's just things coming off, Here's my biggest fear. My biggest fear is they always fire off on all cylinders on that first single and the second single. And then it's kind of like, okay, I heard the rest of the album before 1,000 times. Right?
Yeah. But I'll say this about Firepower. And I say this about a lot of albums these days. I feel like bands do a funny thing with the singles. And like, I actually liked the non-singles on Firepower better than I liked the singles. I kind of didn't mind No Surrender, the song kind of about Glenn Tipton, but the song Firepower itself didn't do a ton for me. And I liked songs like Necromancer that wasn't a single, and Spectres that wasn't a single, and Trader's Gate that might have been like a late single well after it was released. Much better on Fire. I like the deeper cuts on Firepower better than I like what they released as a single. So maybe this is the opposite. I don't know. But all I know is if I'm going to like the non-singles better than the single I just heard, this is going to be a pretty great album. Let's just say this. Based on what we've heard, this has the potential, only the potential, to be the best Judas Priest album that they've released since reuniting in 2004. So we'll see. And I mean, we still have, this is only one single, but if I'm gonna, base an opinion on the lead single, this is definitely the best first track we've heard.
Yeah.
It's better than the first track they released from Firepower. It's better than the first track they released from Nostradamus. It's better than the first track they released from Redeemer of Souls, and it's probably better than the first track they released from Angel of Retribution. Yeah, and I like Angel of Retribution, and I like Firepower.
All right,
Uh,
let's go. Let's go to the comments here. Okay, Melissa says, "Can he pull this off live?" You know what? I guess. I don't know. It's going to be hard, but you know what? Who cares? I mean, I would think, you know what? There's nothing wrong with overextending yourself in a studio and making something wonderful,
yep.
right? There's nothing wrong with that. And if you can't pull it off live, well, you just look for other notes to hit
And
instead.
I don't need live to sound. Look, I don't want, again, I don't want a band live to sound exactly like the studio. Otherwise, I'll listen to the record.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want it to be a piss poor rendition either. So look, if you look at the clips of Power Trip from this past weekend, you know, Rob definitely, in some places he's getting some help, and in some places he's just doing his best, and it's his best isn't what he used to. In some cases, he's not going for the high like he used to go for the high because he knows his limitations. I appreciate a singer who knows his limitations. I'd rather you give me, something better in a lower register than trying to hit a high note that you can't hit anymore.
Well, I mean, also the beautiful thing about Rob Halford and his voice, he has always known when to overdo things and when not to overdo things. If you listen
Yeah.
throughout his, that's why he's one of the greatest vocalists of all time in metal, at least. He knows that you can't do Painkiller on every album, on every song. You got to go down, you got to go up, you got to go all around your range, and you got to fit your voice to the melody of the song and not try to prove you could hit the highest note on every song. And that's probably the biggest trap of all upcoming vocalists. They can hit these high notes, and what happens is they want to prove themselves over and over again. And I get it. Usually the first album is like that. But after a while, you have to sort of sell your voice, not your notes, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
While you're looking for the next comment, one thing I wanted to say that was in my notes that we
Well,
haven't
there's
really
tons of
talked about.
comment.
I love the way Scott Travis's drums sound on this song. I really love the way they recorded Scott Travis.
Pause. Melissa says, I don't want it to sound the same, but I just want him to know his limits and not try to recreate the studio version. Melissa, go look at I sent you a text message if you want to jump on. Go ahead.
Yeah. So what did you think of the drum sound? So you were asking the questions. I'll ask it because I was really impressed by the way they captured Scott Travis's powerful playing, but tasteful. And again, the sound sounds a little bit one way in that turbo-ish intro, but then it sounds a little bit different when it kicks in. So I just really love what they did with Scott Travis's drum sound.
So I paid attention. Yes, I think on Firepower. Here's my analysis of Firepower. It sounds like a circle. Everything is kind of all the music is all sort of compressed together. This song is a little more spacey.
You hear everything.
You hear everything well. Whereas Firepower, the drums and the bass, they're all in one little tight little circle. This one's more spread out, and you can actually, when you put on headphones, you can hear everything properly. The drums are really good. If you pay attention to the drums, he's keeping the same tempo, but at the same time, he's playing a different drum pattern. Check that out right at the end of the song if you want to be impressed. Let's see some comments here. The Metal Block. Sorry, guys, I'm losing my voice here. I worked all day. I like how Don Dawkins sounds the same on new songs. Don Dawkins, wait a second. Where are we going here? Maybe I'm missing a part of the chat here. Hold on. Jim Harrison, the best is yet to come. John is saying Judas effing Priest. Johnny Pierce says, easier to sing than Painkiller. I'd say not all highs. Technology will help him pull it off live.
It doesn't need to sound. It doesn't need to sound like Painkiller for me. Look, I've got on record that I know for a lot of people, Painkiller is their favorite, like the ultimate Judas Priest record. And I've said for me, it's only like maybe my 8th or 9th or 10th favorite Judas Priest record because I feel like Painkiller at times is too over the top. And again, I like variety. I like diversity. I like an album where give me some really over the top stuff, but give me some mid tempo stuff, and even give me a ballad or two. So. Again, I feel like within this song, we got Rob doing so many different things.
Yeah. So how would you rate it? And I'll ask everybody out there if you want to rate it out of 10 if you've heard it, maybe you haven't heard it, but if you have heard it, what would you rate it out of 10? What would you rate it out of 10, Bern? We're going to bring Melissa on. She's going to give her input here.
Man, I got to go 8.5 or 9. Like, honestly, I'm I'm really impressed. I'm like, you know, we're talking about, you know, not Richie obviously and not Scott, but
Yeah.
we're talking about like Ian, Rob, we're talking about, you know, Glenn, we're talking about guys in their 70s. Uh and honestly, it's good, it's heavy, and you know what? It's creative. It's like
Yeah.
it's original. And how nice is that? How fresh is that? Like it you know, again, it doesn't alienate any part of the fan base.
Yeah.
Like I said, if you came on board of Turbo, then you like it. If you came on board of Painkiller, you like it. You know, if you love Defenders, I think you like this. So really well done. So I got to give it an 8.5 or 9. Again, I've only listened to it twice, but I'm probably going to listen to this thing like 10 more times, like tonight and
Okay,
tomorrow morning.
let's bring on somebody else's opinion here. All right, here we go.
Can producer Jimmy get this right?
Oh, we see your head.
We got the top of Melissa's head.
You got the top of my head.
Yeah. All right. There we are. Now
I
we
look
got
like
the
a hag, but I look like a hag. But thanks for having me on.
we didn't have time to get into hair and makeup either. So, you know, we just had to kind of get on there and do this.
It's easier when you lose hair. You don't have time for hair, anyways. So, but anyways.
So, yeah. So I've heard snippets of it. I haven't heard the entire song, to be perfectly honest.
All right, it's a good way to start the review.
But here's my thing. Here's my thing is I just want to make sure that I want this album to reflect the Judas Priest of today.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want them to try to do another Screaming for Vengeance because they can't. Or I should say they can't, Rob can't. And that's okay.
I agree.
Right.
I agree. So do you think from the snippets you heard, do you think they're doing that? Do you think they are being the best Judas Priest they can be in 2023? Or do you feel like they're trying to kind of, like, I'm saying it's a good thing that this sounds a little Turbo, this sounds a little Painkiller, but do you think they're kind of trying to copy themselves, or do you think that this is naturally what's coming out of them?
I think that, you know, it's natural to be inspired by yourself, right? To take all your back catalog and kind of put it in a blender and maybe modernize it a little bit and see what you can come up with. And I know that Richie has breathed life into this band, and I know the guitar work's going to be excellent, right? We know that. I mean, I think that I'm excited about this. I've already pre-ordered it.
Okay.
I'm excited to hear this. I'm excited to hear this album. You know, like I said, I don't want it to be overproduced. I don't want it to sound like an Ozzy record. You know what I mean?
Well, I think that's how I think of Firepower, actually. I think of it as so overproduced that it kind of loses something.
Yeah.
In terms of, I like the album, and I guess I don't want anybody to think I don't like this album. I really do like Firepower. I think there's some great tracks there, but I just found that because it was so overproduced, it kind of lost something.
I know you don't put it on the same pedestal. Like, I know myself, Orlando, other people really love Firepower, and you're more lukewarm about it. You know, you don't put it on the same.
I do love the album. It's a great album. Don't get me wrong. I just thought it could have been better.
The material is great on that record. I think it's great material. You know, the production you can kind of take or leave. It kind of depends on your taste when it comes to what kind of a production you like. But I thought the material on that record was better than we had seen on the 2 records before.
Okay, let's get back to this rating here. Sam is saying 8.72. That's very precise. I love the 1/10 over 100th or whatever that is. 10 out of 10, Mad Max. Johnny says 11 out of 10. And Michael says 8 out of 10. And Perrin, you said...
I said 8.5, 9.
8.5, 9. And I would go with 9. I would lean a little towards 9 because I just love the freshness of the production. Like I said, I like the progression of all the sort of the whole song. It's very proggy kind of type song, but still metal. And even though it has keyboards, it's still metal.
Yeah, it does. The keyboards are excellent. The keyboards are good. I like the keyboards.
It adds to it. It really adds
the
flavor.
Billy Idol meets Painkiller.
Look, I'm still in the Dream Theater.
I agree with Perrin on the Dream Theater. I think it's more Dream Theater-ish than Billy Idol.
Why is everybody so scared of Billy Idol? I don't understand this.
I love Billy Idol.
Don't be scared of him. Just don't.
I've seen Billy Idol live.
Jeez.
With Derek Sherinian from Dream Theater on keys.
On that note, thank you for joining us. Thank you for putting your input.
Thanks for having me.
Listen to the whole thing, Melissa.
Anyways,
I will.
In different parts of the world, it's being released as we speak. So there you go. All right. Everybody have yourself a wonderful night. Okay.
Bye.